Well, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to make this whole thing. You know, how I go about carving, how I go about setting it up. I did this purposely for a seminar I'm gonna do in Texas this winter in San Juan, and first of all, what I do is I figure out the size of moose I want to carve and put in there. So I start with, and this is a rough out I had made from an original carving. Actually, I send the moose in, and this guys will rough it out for me. So because when I do those seminars in Texas, it'll be a 3-day seminar, and everybody will be, going home with a finished piece like this. So we kind of speed things up by roughing them out, have them roughed out. And this guy does an excellent job. If you guys ever want to have something roughed out, this guy is real reasonable. So anyway, so I start with and then I go with a wood slab. I get a wood slab like this, you can get them anywhere. Barb had a few cut out for me a few years ago. I still have a lot of them there in the pole barn, but what I do is I pick up one in about an inch thick, and then the next thing I do is I route the inside. If you notice, it's routed. It's about 1/4 of an inch deep. That's all you need. You can even go 1/8 of an inch deep because you won't even tell how deep it is once you submerge that little moose in there. So my next step is to carve the moose and then have it ready to pour the materials in there. But what I do then is I clear finish this whole thing, the base, and then I'll paint it with some green on the bottom. I'll go, let's see, where's my, well, here's a green paint. Oh, here's the other one. It's just a cheap acrylic paint. You don't have to buy anything fancy. And it's just to get the coloration of the water. So I take this, this one's called olive green. So I take that and I paint the inside of the perimeter of this base where my moose is going to lay. And I let it sit and dry. I seal it too so the paint don't come up when you pour this other stuff in there. And then I start carving all my habitat. The little cattails are made out of just wooden dowels that I buy at Hobby Lobby. Just the little wooden dowels. I'll cut them down to, kind of the right proportion according to the size of the moose. So then we had one time Jim Wenzel from Hastings do a demonstration on how to make cattails. I don't know if you guys remember. It was quite a while, but what he does is after he rounds the edges of the dowels for the cattails, he'll roll it with a tool like something that's got little bumps like this. This is a pretty coarse tool. So he'll roll that on the dowel to create those little bumps that cattails have. And I do it a little bit different than he does. What I do is I get it wet with glue, either spray adhesive or wood glue, the dowel, and then I'll dip it in sand, just a little bit of sand, and it creates all those little texture. Because you want some texture on those guys here. I have one right here that I didn't finish darkening it up, but it's just pretty small. And I make a hole on both ends, right on this end and on the other end. And then I got a bunch of, I go to Hobby Lobby and buy different baskets that don't have a finish in them, and I'll use a lot of the basket weaving stuff for creating the habitat. Like this is just a little part of a basket too, is round. So I'll put this and glue it in the cattails like that. Sometimes I'll break them, so they look like more natural. And then on the top of it, I just use I use toothpicks, a toothpick that I'll cut in half or maybe smaller and put it on there like that right there. And then I either paint them or leave them the way they are, the stems. I usually use, I like using the bass green airbrush paints. And then I'll paint my my little cattails with burnt umber and a little bit of raw umber mixed together. And then the other little weeds, I make them out of a thicker material that I cut with the scissors. Actually, I'll shape them with the scissors, and then I'll paint them green, and then I'll insert everything where I want it before I pour the materials. And then I'll do some lily pads too. I don't know if you can see the lily pads in there, real small. I'll cut a bunch of them like this right in here, and then I'll take, let's see. No, let's see if I got one in here. There's one that, okay, that's one that I sanded already previously before I came here, just to get it smooth. And what I do, instead of carving the little lines in there that lily pads have, little lines going across from the center out, I'll use a stylus. Instead of carving it with a carving tool, I'll use a little round stylus like this, you know, and then I'll just engrave it in there like so. And it's really, and the wood I'm using is Tupelo, and Tupelo is really soft, easy to work with and detail. So I'll just make all those little lines in there prior to painting them, and then I'll just drop them after I pour my stuff. I'll just drop them in there like that. Boom, they'll float. If you want to submerge them a little bit, you may by pushing down with some object. So then the next step for me is to actually, well, carve the antlers for the moose. I got them here, the antlers for the moose. And then I got the ears that I insert separately too in here after I carve them. And if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to stop me and ask me, you know, questions on anything that I'm talking about here tonight. I also casted an original head from the original carving that I sent to have a rough out, and so these guys will get a head so they can see the detail, what they need to be doing, you know, to copy the detail. And then, so once I get everything carved, you know, and ready to pour in there, I'll go ahead and paint my moose the way I want to paint them. Insert the antlers, the ears, and then what I'll do is after it's painted, I'll actually just hot glue it in place wherever I want the moose to be. I'll hot glue it before I pour anything in there, and then I'll insert all my not my lily pads, but this guy's in here. You know, I just bore holes in there and wood glue them or super glue them in there, everything in place. And then let's see, what else am I missing here? You know, and then pretty much after, you know, and I do clear finish all this prior to doing any of that, so I don't have to mess anything up. So then what I'll do is I'll take some of this stuff right here. This is called glaze coat, and you can buy this at either Lowe's or Home Depot. There's two different brands, but they're both the same thing. This is what they use on those bar tops. Some people do them like in bar tops. They'll pour the whole thing and they'll put rocks, you know, submerge into the wood, and then pour this stuff. It's like 70 coats of lacquer per application. So it's really thick stuff. But the critical part about this product here is that, boy, you have to be pretty accurate when you mix it. Don't think because it's got a hardener that you can add a little more hardener to make it dry quicker. You'll mess the whole thing up. Yeah, it's really tricky. I found out the hard way, but at least I know exactly what I don't want to do now. But what you do is you can add color to it too. If you wanted to add the color to change it a little bit, you can add a blue color. You can add a green. Anything you want to.
Liquid or powder?
Liquid. You can. I imagine you could add powder. You know, it's, you know, acrylic is acrylic, and no matter what form you get it, you know, whether it's powder, it'll mix with that liquid and turn into the color you want to. So yeah, you could do either. And let's see, what else was I thinking? Okay, so when you mix this stuff, you can. What I have at home is a little scale weighing machine that I bought for like $17 at Gammons. Yeah, just a nice digital scale with you know, grams, and that way you know you weigh exactly what you're gonna need. You know you're accurate, because it's so easy to try to guess. You know, let's say you mark your cup there, and then you mark the other cup. You might, I mean, a little bit will make a big difference. It really does. Like I said, I found out the hard way. I screwed up some of my things that I was trying to do, but. Then I called the manufacturer, and he says, well, what did you do? I said, well, I thought I could add more hardener to dry it quicker, you know. I said, no, you can't do that. You got to follow the instructions exactly the way they have them. So I went and did it, and it turned out really nice. So by the next day, the sucker will be hard, and the level, self-level itself. Now, some other folks will create a little wake maybe in front of it. Swimming, it should have a little wake, in front of the moose to, imitate that it's swimming. So, but I haven't mastered that yet. It's a little harder than you think. But if you go to YouTube, like on your smartphones nowadays, you can find all kinds of stuff nowadays to create waves or splashes and things like that. It's pretty fascinating. But there's a store in Grand Rapids. I don't know if you guys ever been to it. It's what is that called? Hobby Shop. I'm trying to think of what the name is. 28th Street. Riders. There you go. Yeah, Riders has got a lot of dioramas like with trains. People like doing rivers and stuff like that. So you could buy a lot of different stuff to apply to this. Like I went and bought some of this. It looks like leaf foliage, all different colors. You can buy it in a pack like that. And what I did is I crumbled it and threw it all over, when the thing was still wet. And I got some duck seed. Yeah. To put in there too, a few of those in there when it's still wet, of course. But yeah, the mixing is the most critical part of this whole thing. And so once you pour it, you don't want to pour too much either. You're just gonna have to guess. A lot of the way I find out how much material I need to mix, so I don't waste. I'll pour rice in there, real rice, dry rice, of course. I pour it in there to level it all out. And then I'll take the rice and pour it on a cup, and that tells me more or less how much material is going to take to fill that surface. And I always give myself a little more, because you're always going to need a little more. So then I mix my stuff, and I'll pour it in there after everything's arranged the way I want it to. And does anybody have any questions about the materials at all?
That's a powder? That's a powder?
No, that's liquid. Yeah, that's liquid. Yeah, it's crystal clear. And man, that stuff dries really clear if you want it just clear, but I like it in the water look. But yeah, that's main thing is to mix it right and stir. Just follow the instructions. It'll tell you pretty much how to do it in there. And then what else have we got to cover here? Well.
Do you put more than one coat of that on it?
No. Not really, but let's say you screwed it up, or you try to see if it was dry, and you touch it with your fingers, and you got a fingerprint in there or a dent. Yeah, you can pour it over there, and it'll self-level itself. That's what's nice about this product. It'll just disappear again. But you've got. I never really read how much working time you got there, but it takes at least 24 hours to dry. I'm thinking you got 4 hours of working time. You have plenty of time. If you can't figure it out in 4 hours, give it up. But it's really cool the way it turns out. And I showed this in Texas last year, and they wanted me to do a seminar, so we're going to do that. And then the other paints I used to, like I said, to paint the leaves and stuff, is this. I call it's bass green. You're familiar with those colors, bass green or dark bass green. So those are the colors I just paint my lily pads and stuff with before I put them in there. And then once you poured it, then you start putting in the other stuff. This ones have to be in place, because you won't be able to stick them in. But like the leaves and this stuff, the duckweed and the lily pads, you just drop them wherever you want to. Once you drop them, you better leave them there. And, but this stuff dries so clear that you can almost make a drip coming out of his mouth too, if you wanted to create that look on the moose there.
You mix the color in the glaze before you put the hardener in, if you want to color it?
If you want to do it that route, yeah. You don't put it on the hardener, but on the other one, the B, there's A and B formula there. And so you mix it in there, and that way you can see more or less what it's going to look like, I always try to work, before I do all this, I'll try to just get a little piece of wood and carve it just like I would that, and then pour in there and do a test trial, because you never know. I mean, when you're doing something like this, you don't want to screw it up at the very end. So you might want to just try it. If you've never done it before, I would try it. Mix with colors and paint the bottom solid. I found out if you paint the bottom solid color, that's pretty much what you're gonna get on the top. But you can mix it the other way too, by mixing the color into the liquid there.
You said you sealed your paint before you applied the clear coat.
Yes.
Is that because you had a reaction?
Yep. Exactly. Yep. For some reason, I don't know if this chemical is that strong. It doesn't really smell bad, but it started lifting the color, and I said, man, now I got a swirl in there, that I don't want.
You just put a polyurethane over it
What's that?
after you paint it to seal it?
Yes, I use a lot of lacquers, and it's something to seal it with. You could probably use polyurethane, Minwax or something like that. I'm starting to use a lot more of that recently, just because of all the fumes and stuff. But anyway, I'm using a lot of the Minwax polyurethane, polyacrylic. That stuff is pretty nice, because you can wash your hands and clean it off. Lacquers don't come off as easy. But and that's pretty much all it takes to do that. I'm not sure what else you would like to me to tell you about it, but that's pretty much all I've got for you folks today, unless you got more questions. I'm not running anywhere real quick. Air bubbles. That's a good question, because you sometimes it may occur, and what you do in that instant is take a hair dryer at low heat and just blow on it, and usually blows the bubbles off. That's a good question, because what happens is when you're mixing the product, both A and B together, you're stirring, so you get letting air into the liquid, and then when you pour it, it wants to come out. But the neat thing about it is it takes a long time to dry, so it allows it time to come out bubble free. I haven't any trouble. But at first when I first seen it, then I read about it. It said just blow it with a hair dryer or a heat gun, as long as it's not too hot. You'll burn everything up. But other than that, it's really neat stuff to work with. You could create I was telling Mike Bacon he ought to do his duck that he's got coming up on a water splash or something. That would look really good. And I think it's a loon or something. I'm not sure what it was. But anyway, any other questions? Yep, Fidencio. What's that?
Is the product very sticky?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You want to wear gloves. I always wear gloves when I'm working with something like that. Yeah, it is real sticky, man. You don't want it anywhere but in there. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to wipe off. It's really thick stuff. It's really real thick.
When you pour it in there, do you have to go around, or you just pour one spot?
No, you want to kind of, that's a good question too, because you want to keep your, I'll even put a level to it in my table, so make sure that sucker is level right. Otherwise, it's going to run to one end, But I always have little wedges that I make myself to wedge it. Let's say it's running that way and I can't do anything about it. I'll just wedge the bottom and raise it up a little bit with a piece of wood to get it level. And that's really important, that you don't walk out of the room thinking it's okay. You come back and that thing spilled to the side. Yeah, keep it level if you can, because I did this with a router, by the way. Actually, without a plunger. I need a plunger, right? Router, but it's really not that hard to do. I did 10 of them yesterday. Yeah, getting ready. But anyway, and you don't want to go too thick, because you're just wasting a lot. I still got. The thing is, these things have a shelf life, so you got to use it up. If you're gonna do one, come to me. I'll give you some. You got to use it up. That stuff goes. Yeah, you could do. I thought about doing a tabletop with maybe koi fish. Even just prints of koi. You don't even have to carve a koi in there. Just to get that look.
Coffee tables out of, but they're using that in layers.
Yeah.
Otherwise it takes forever for it to dry or
Yeah.
something like that.
And that's what they tell you on the box on this one too. I think you can't go more than a quarter of an inch at a time, because it has to dry. Air has to get to it to dry, and if you make it too thick, you'll be there forever. I mean, for it to dry. So yeah, you're better off pouring 2 thin coats than 1 heavy one. Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't mention, but it tells you pretty much there how to use it. You know, but it works really nice. It's really neat stuff to make tabletops and things like that. Really nice stuff.
A box like that cost, I assume that's probably a smaller size.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's about $21. Yeah, about 20 some bucks. You know, and but like I said, they have them at well, no, this stuff I don't know if they have it at Ryder's, but this product they have it at Home Depot and at Lowell's. You go right up to the paint department, and that's where they'll have it.
That's the smallest amount?
Yeah, that's the smallest amount you can buy. Yeah, but like I said, I got plenty of that. I'll never use it up. Financio?
Effects of white.
Can you create? Yeah. See, they sell, like at Ryder's, I found some product, they sell them on little tubes, and that you can buy it in smaller containers, but you squeeze it out, and it almost forms like a little wake. But you got to really work at it to create a wake without it flattening out on you. But I didn't like the way it looks, so I didn't add it to this guy here. But there is a lot of material out there, and like in YouTube videos, that people that are doing wakes and splashes, and they're doing all kinds of white water, you know, like waterfalls and things like that. You can do a lot of stuff with this material. Yep.
Well, couldn't you use hot glue?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hot glue is going to look like. You know, it's got to be
Because
almost.
the product heats?
Well, because it's yeah, I guess hot glue can dry clear too, won't it? Yeah. Well, there's a trick to try. I mean, something like that. I'm sure. You know, I tried. I thought about even carving like a wake on the, and I've casted wakes. You know, out of the same stuff. I made a mold out of wakes and poured it, and I laid it, and I wasn't satisfied the way it looked. You know, so but it's something that you just got to try. You know, but it's fun. You got the time to be doing that. You know, to experiment with something that you want to create. But I'm sure there's other easier ways, like in those taxidermy books, you can order even already wakes that you can apply for different things, for larger taxidermy pieces. But I'm sure that would work too, and something small if you could make it. Yeah, they sell other products, you know, that's you could create a wig actually, like you said, blown with a hairdryer or something. And you know, but it dries almost instantly, that stuff, and this stuff doesn't dry. That's why you couldn't hold a ripple, you know, with a hairdryer.
I was using stuff from Petty Paint, and that
Yeah, it dries quicker. Sounds like it sets up quicker, and that's what you really need to make a wake like that. Anybody? Any other questions? All righty. I guess we'll wrap it up, Mike. Thank you very much.